Okay, so I got this base tightened down now. I don't know if this will make a difference. This one had the really thick one on it. It came with one of these short ones. I'm guessing if we have any kind of linkage issues that we'll have to go grab us another one big ones. So I'll just keep that around for a reference. I got the choke stove here plugged up while we was going at it here. I'll have to reconnect the vacuum lines and then get the linkage hooked back up over here. And then fuel line here, go in the front. I'm gonna make sure that's tight. Should be good to go here, there. Okay. For those of you looking for a reference, I'll try to remember to show you this up close in a minute. Should be about where it needs to be. Need the return spring on here. Let's see how to put this one there. That one on that notch there. And we need our return on this one too. There, like that. Yeah, then we start getting that movement. Okay. Now we'll have to put our clips back in there. Look it over good. There might be something a little going on here. I'll have to check it as we go. Looks like it's steps are coming up on it about where it needs to be. But we'll keep an eye on it. Other than the vacuum hoses and obviously our rough settings, we'll have a couple other settings to check on as far as our air door and all that stuff. Dash pot. Okay, I'll get our clips on here. You always hear the train on these videos, don't you? They don't run as much as it seems like. They know when I record. Clippage over here on this side already. This always has that plug in it. That's fine. Might have to check it at the bottom. There's the clip that goes into the transmission has a clip on that end. I can't remember which one. I think it's one of the hairpin style, what we just put in there. I do have one right here. One of these guys. I know that might be hard to see. It's like a small cotter pin. I'll check that down there. There probably is usually a little washer. It's facing straight down so I can go underneath it on a little prong and then stick that through it. So don't break nothing at them. Okay, now we got all this stuff kind of reconnected. We got that down there, you saw that. The hose routing. When I got this thing, it was very, very, very original. And if you look up here in the corner, I actually did a video about a year ago. Somebody had asked about the hose routing on their van. And I went through the pretty much original condition of this thing, as greaseball as it was, and showed them where everything went. Well, guess what? That came in really handy when we take videos and pictures of our cars in detailed areas like this before we go pulling them apart. I was able to reference my own video and redirect everything where it belonged. And a lot of the stuff kind of takes its own shape over time due to the dry rot nature of it. So I had all of it pulled loose. So I was able to stick it back, and what I'm going to do is just catalog all these hoses, the different sizes and the types that they are, because everything's a little bit different here. And I'm going to buy new hoses and cut to length and use the T's, and then we will run brand new hoses in here. That way we won't have any leaks of any sort that could be prevented with some, you know, brand new rubber. So that's pretty much intact there. This one is for the power brake booster. There's actually a metal line that runs off this T here. It goes here up there and shoots up to the front. You can probably see the nipple from it underneath the radiator hose, and that's basically where this piece goes. These other ones here, I got two of them. You got this fitting on the edge here. It's kind of, you can tighten with the pinchers. These are for the charcoal canister. There should be another one. I think it was rotted. Might even be. That's for the radiator, or the radiator. But our charcoal canister will fit back in here, and then you have these three outlets, which come off the side over there, the passenger side, and they will enter into it there. Won't worry about that too much right now. As long as we have the ones on the carburetor hooked up directly, I'll be happy with that. But I'll have to kind of go through the headache of taking all this stuff off, getting I might even just take all the pieces to the Napa. Our buddy there is real friendly. He can probably help us get the sections we need, and then we can trim them down and fit everything up. Because there's quite a bit of hosing, but not as much as you would see in the later 70s when you had all the emission stuff really take over. Most of this is just to kind of take the fumes out. And like our PCV over here, it kind of runs into a T here. And I've pretty much plugged, I'll do one more check, plugged all the outlets on this carburetor. And the vacuum advance runs off of this little canister over here, and it goes in through there. So there is a roundabout vacuum advance on this points distributor. So we'll get that up there. We'll get some plug wires on here, and hopefully that carburetor, after I fool around with it, gets the settings on it, we should have ready to fire. So went and took all the old hoses in, big wad of them, in our belt. So I got a new belt. Hopefully that works. This one that came off it. We got our heater hoses. Now they're all the full length. Like, we just added the little pieces and got the length, and he gave me a little extra, so that's cool. And you know, vacuum line kind of stuff, this stuff, and then this stuff, and that's that. So yeah, now it's time to break it all down, and we'll do the small stuff first, like vacuum advance to that little side. It's only like that big, so do the little simple stuff. Eliminate, you know, process of elimination. Do the heater hoses. Yeah, heater hoses. I was gonna say heater core for some reason. We've got a heater core. Get our heater hoses. We're gonna lay them aside, put them up here at the front, and we got the one for the what you call it, the brake booster. It's not yay long, about like that, something like that. I think that's what this one is. We'll figure it out. Some of them are thick, some of them are, you know, they have different segments. We also got some new T's. So we'll reference our pictures when we get into the other stuff. The T's all broke on me, so that became a mess real quick. So I'll start with this one and work my way out. Come along. All right, take this guy back off. Keeps the vermins out of it. And I didn't worry about this hose because it's still very flexible and has a good seal. I mean, flexible to the degree that you can actually move it and not crack. So I just left that one. If it becomes a problem, which it shouldn't, then I'll replace that. But in the meantime, we'll get this little guy here. just start somewhere. So there. Let's see. Okay, so I'm doing pretty good here. There's a few things I'm struggling with. One of them is the size of the this vacuum hose. It seems like I've had this issue before. You go in to get the stuff that was original size on here, and they always give you something that's just a little bigger, which is basically this. And it looks really, really, really close when you're eyeballing them next to each other, but it's like when you actually get down to it and slip it up on one of these little nipples, that it's real super loose. So it's like, So I actually had an old piece back there that's not old, it's actually very flexible. So I was able to use that and run it here, but I'm gonna need another at least 4 inches, and I just don't have enough. I got like another ½ an inch. And this stuff won't do. It's just, you can see I can throw it on this advanced canister and it literally can just spring itself off. So that's just, that ain't gonna work there. This one here, I think this one is the one that runs over to the emissions line that has been rotted. So I'll just probably string it over there and cap it for now until we figure that out, if it even matters. Sometimes they don't matter. I got some spark plug wires on order. They should be here in the afternoon, or at least at the store, and I'll go back down and get them. They didn't have anything in stock at Napa or at O'Reilly, so they had to order some. That's the same with these hoses, man. They just drive you nuts, all these little variances in size, and sometimes they'll add metric in there, then they'll quit carrying the standard at the store, and it's just like, just makes it really hard to put some of the stuff back together. And it's always gets kind of put on the back burner because of it, and then it's last minute effort. Coil, make sure. Index this thing so you can access the terminals on it if need be. Okay, got it around about, get it off that advanced canister about there. So buffer. And tighten down our other terminal. Still pretty cold out. It's about 29, 30 degrees. I'm gonna do a check on those. Make sure they're right. It's cool. We got the black one and then the red one. Black one should be on there. We have the condenser back here. It wired. This one is the one that goes to the ballast resistor. It'll go up here on the positive. Alright, so I found some nuts that actually fit. I'm going to clean them up real quick because they're a little aged. This is what I'm doing here. So the one wire that goes on the, I probably need to turn this some more. It's just trying to figure out where you really want it. Maybe like so. Yeah. So the one with the plus, that's obviously the positive. That's your red or pink wire in this case, and it goes up here, runs up to the ballast resistor. So that's a positive connection. And so we'll get our nice clean nut, put it on there. And it's the only one that'll be on that one. I think it's pretty much the same for an electronic ignition, which we might switch to later, but right now we'll worry about this. And then your condenser here, which has the black wire, it will go with the black wire off the distributor onto the negative post. So it's pretty much like a battery. Same concept. Now the reason I'm going with a lot of this stuff, which is original, like the coil was on it, the distributor was on it, was I did get it fired up about a year ago, and it took off. I was pouring gas down the carb. I was sitting here on the floor. Had my left hand on the key starting it, and I had some gas I was pouring down the carb, and it took off and ran. And it actually, with me having to goose the throttle there, it ran and it sounded pretty smooth. So I'm just kind of going by what I know it has. And then we are a few steps closer to runtime. So I'm kind of excited about that. It's been such an inanimate object that just does nothing other than take up space in the garage and give me something to do for the past year and 1 month. That hearing it and seeing it run is definitely a different experience. We take our vehicles that run for granted, but when they don't, we're especially excited to get the project going, and they don't run, and then it's all there, and it finally does, and it's quite exhilarating. We'll jump back on here in a bit, get the wires on, go from there. I'm about ready to go up to the auto parts store and grab my ignition wires and maybe look at some of these other hoses. These hoses drive me nuts because you don't necessarily need all of them, but you know, some of them are just trying to do the nice ecological thing here in 2021 and be nice and get our 1972 van up to some kind of a pollution standard. But you know what, sometimes it's just like, gosh. So here's the canister, and a lot of these were severed when I got it. They was broke, or the lines, the rubber line off them was broke. I just stuck this one in there. I don't even know where that goes. It says on each one like fuel tank and PCV and distributor vacuum and then carb bowl. Sometimes one of them gets plugged because there's only 3 lines that comes up here, but then you got the other line that it runs from the side of the gas tank all the way down through here, and it was the one that was rotted, and that's what this is right here. I went ahead and unclipped it, and I set it back up on top of the floor pan here where it would diagram underneath. So this whole section here had rotted away and gone, and it come up here and make a bend, and then it rotted up from there forward. So in my experience, you got to be careful with these emission lines. You can't just rip them all out because some of them are a feedback. Some of them are an overflow. And I'll tell you the mistake I made one time. I had a 74 Challenger and I went through the whole car, and I had got the gas tank out and all that sort of stuff. Everybody at the time was like, oh, just pull your emissions line, just pull them out, they don't mean nothing. So I pulled the actual emission line that went down the passenger side, passenger side, I think, and just eliminated it. Well, what happens is it goes back right above the gas tank on those E-bodies. There's a little manifold and it's got a couple vents in it. Well, my mistake with that is I disconnected all that, took it out, and just hooked the line up to the tank. Well, you have those vents, and I just put plugs on them. Well, no, it don't work, because I went to plug some gas in it one day. Speaking of plug, putting some gas in it one day, and I thought, well, we're going to go up to Columbus, Ohio, you know, a good 5-hour trip. So I filled that thing up, and next thing I know, there's fuel pouring out all over the ground. Well, it was coming out of the vents. If it would have been hooked up properly, it would have taken the extra and brought it up and went down that line and reserved it and put it up in the, and actually put the extra in the canister, and then it would have plugged back up and then said click, and it would have stopped. But this, it kept filling and filling because it kept dumping it out onto the ground. So that was a situation. We had to get some chem dry, or you know what, all that stuff, and clean it up, and I knew instantly I'd done something wrong. So in this case, we're going a little bit overkill with it, and I might end up plugging some of them, but we know we need our vacuum advance. We know we need our PCV, but I'll probably go ahead and run a piece of metal line, just run it across there so that we'll have a backup for the tank, and then we just won't have any of those stupid surprises. So it's up to your judgment. You know, some of you know the system better than others, probably know it better than me. About 72 was like a 1 year only. I think 71 was as well. That's when they started doing this sort of thing. After that, they brought it down a little bit, but they started putting smog pumps and all that stuff later. So pretty thankful for this one. Pretty simple, just a few things we got to figure out. So I went to get my wires at the Charlestown location. I had to order them. Well, they ordered like one number off. So, and I had this box that was crushed. Plus, it was just the wrong number. So they said, well, are you close to Salem or Scottsburg? So I said, well, I can go to Scottsburg, which is like, I don't know, 25 miles from the house. And so they had the right one, 9138. It's kind of a shame that you can't go in and buy 318 level wires anymore. They always have to order them now. Used to, it was just, there were so many of them on the road, you had them in stock. But one cool thing about Scottsburg is that, you know, it's just a little country town, but you get the main highway through town here, and you've got the O'Reilly right here, then you have Advance right here, you have AutoZone right down there on the same side of the street, and then probably about a half a block from here the other way there's a Napa. So if you're at Scottsburg and you're doing the old one store to the other type of deal, at least they're all close together and they're on the main drag. Plus there's a hardware store down here in the corner too. So pretty cool. Some of them you got to run, like in Sellersburg where I live, you got to run here and you got to run on the other side of town, and then if you got to go to a Napa, you got to go down into Clarksville and all this other stuff. So that's convenient what they got going on here. So just an observation. I'm gonna go back home, get these wires on, and see what we can do next. All right, so we're not there yet, but one thing you haven't been able to hear is any kind of power put to this vehicle. Got to do a couple more things. I'm going to get to it here after the video shoot, but we got our other lines. I had to look real close in our past video, and the PCV come around here. It stops here. It tees off into that, which is where it would have went just by itself, but then this one emissions over into the middle one. Okay, this one goes into the air cleaner. I need to do the other one that goes next to it that fits up into this. So it just wraps in and under. Not a big deal. You can leave them off most of the time. I found another piece of hose here, and we got our ignition wires from Scottsburg. They're all routed properly, and so oh yes, the line over here. Here's our piece of line. I went ahead and bent it up. It's the only one I had, a little bit big. It's like a 3/8. I think the original was a 1/4, but this will do. And if you lay it out where it would go underneath the floor, it'd roughly set about here. So once you straighten it up over there, settle it down, click it back up into the fasteners, and then it would poke out about here, and then we'd have all our line back for that. Okay, now I'm going to check some things out in the back of the tank area, make sure we're all tightened up back there. And here's our little, so we do have ignition to that level. We should have fire. We did last time, but that was a year ago. There's a little bit of turn. I might actually pop the distributor out and prime the pump just to get some oil back up top since it's so cold. And if I don't get it tonight, I would like to fire it tomorrow. So stick with us, we're getting there. All right, did a little bit more preliminary work on this van. For instance, this ground wire was loose. I went ahead and put an eyelet on it. It's gonna go up here. Where's the hole? Right there. Here's our screw for it. And then I went ahead and undid the ground bolt on here that goes on the head, because I have well, this is for the battery, the ground cable for the battery, right? And yes, it does ground to the body, but you want as many grounds as you can, you know, reasonably. I have the copper, the kind of the fabric style ground strap. I have it soaking to get all the years of muck and corrosion off of it. So it'll bolt in here, and then I'll probably have it come up directly maybe to the frame down here, like the actual subframe that's unibodied into this van. We'll figure that out tomorrow. So I'll probably, you know, stick this back up. I might even run it back up to this hole, and they'll all be together. But I'd like to do it on a thicker piece of steel. So I'll probably do that. Of course, we still have to put the radiator in. I have it over there. It doesn't seem to have any leaks in it. At least cold, it doesn't. And our transmission lines here, I'm going to undo the end at the transmission and let them hang down, and then run some brake cleaner through here, because part of the year these have been exposed, and so there could be any kind of, you know, artifacts or dust in there. So I want to clear that out, and then I'll screw them back onto the transmission. Ultimately, the transmission will need probably a couple of seals, and that's like for the dipstick tube and likely the pan. I'd say one or both. And you can see how gooey everything is. So I'll probably take a good look at this. I've really not taken much time with it, and just see what's going on here. But I will get it running first and then worry about this. So I'm not going to get any really a whole batch of transmission fluid or anything. We'll probably go ahead and change the filter in it, do that sort of thing, since it has set like everything else. But we're on the home stretch here. And one thing I was doing at the back of the van, if you remember back during our fuel system rehash, the vent lines that go into the tube that mount on the other side of this, they was too short. Even though the old ones measured at 19 inches, I just thought, okay, that's good. But actually, that old rubber, when I took it out of the van and set it in the corner for a few months, that rubber actually shrunk about 2 inches, believe it or not. And so 19 inches was not what we wanted to use on that. Everything fell way too short, and I put everything back how it was stock. So that didn't work, and I went ahead and got new hoses, dropped the gas tank a little bit, and resituated all that. So we're good back there. We can actually put some gas in it. And I'm going to think through the night here, close up for the night, and just kind of get myself together and see what we need to do for tomorrow besides explain. Turn the radio down. So it's the next morning. It's cold, and it is rainy outside. Whew. Hopefully we'll get the heat in here this week. Up there in the corner. So right now we are looking at cracking transmission cooler lines loose. I've got them soaking in PB Blaster. You can see the puddle. And we have a greasy mess up here from the leak that has transpired over the years. And this one, you go to turn it, and one of the reasons I have it soaking, because you know you have a brass fitting that screws into the transmission case, the aluminum transmission case. You have a brass fitting, and then this is a steel kind of a box nut that goes around. You can see the line wants to move with it, so hopefully that'll soak, and we get a little bit of, I'll work it around just a little bit. Rookie mistake 20 years ago, I had a dart and I went to crank this thing off. I just went, and it came off, and I looked, and it completely twisted this line. So keep that in mind. Now this one up here, front one, now keep, that one I had popped it loose off the thread, but like I said, it's turning the line. Now with that in mind, up here, this one, this is what it was doing from the moment I put the wrench on it. So methinks that the leak could be coming from that being like that, actually loose on the line. Now that doesn't mean it's not coming from other things, because these are notoriously leaky from the shift shaft bushing, even the band adjustment, and sometimes the neutral safety switch, which is hidden under all the grease here, the piece that screws into the casing there, along with the obvious transmission pan gasket. So I've got it all soaking here, and I'm going to try to get these popped loose so at least I can shoot some brake cleaner down into them to kind of open up the lines. And I'll probably, if I can, shoot it from this end and force it out through the front. And, you know, maybe even the other way, because if we can shoot it in this way and not get it into the fittings, you know, we don't want to contaminate anything, but get into the fittings, we might be able to shoot some of the brake cleaner up on all this mess and start cleaning that up a little bit in the future. But order of the day, try to get it started and running on its own power again. So I got the lines. I went ahead and just took them out, and this is the one that was hanging up on me. And actually what it was the fitting, the brass fitting inside the case was turning with it. So I had to put a wrench on that, and you got to be careful of those, because sometimes the wrenches don't fit nice and snug around it. They get a little bit of play. So I actually had to end up using an adjustable wrench, putting on there, holding the adjustment tight on it, and then cracking that thing loose. And it did a little bit of a bend, but I noticed it was just enough to give me some movement, so it popped loose and I was able to screw it off there. So you can hear it, it's a little grainy. We can reuse that one, no problem. This one had the compression fitting on it. I fixed it a while back, but you know what, since it's out, I'm just so picky that I think I'm gonna go ahead and bend a new line. So isolate this line. It's about 63 inches, I believe. I've got this one here, which is an old one that came off of, I think, the Camaro. They didn't do a very good job of it, but I think I can rebend it. It's a little bit shorter, but the only difference is that when they're together, they hang right next to each other. Well, when it gets to about here, I could cut a couple inches out of it by just bringing it directly into the cooler, instead of it doing this, you know, total bend around. So I'll duplicate the shape all the way here till probably about right here in the middle of that little stretch there, and then just divert it back over, and then I can clip them back together. It has this two clips, one here and here, and then you have to, they're a little bit of a pain to get out of this one though. You have to divert, let's see, you have to push it right back down the middle here and come in here and kind of turn them around different directions. They can be wrestled in, and that's just what we'll do. So I'm going to probably clean the side of that case up over there. I got some brake cleaner soaking on it right now. I put some caps over it, and birds of the feather type of thing here. I know Mopar Nut 62 does this sort of thing. He's got a little pail of all these little caps, and these like come on master cylinders, and sometimes you'll get something that's got some nipples on them, and they'll have these. Save this stuff, because I've used a couple of these and put them on those fittings where the transmission line's screwed in, so that way when I go to clean it, it won't get anything in the holes, and then we don't get a bunch of contamination in the transmission. So keep any of this kind of stuff here when you get them. It's very handy. I think these come in power steering reservoirs. If you don't have a cap on it, they'll put that in there. So just keep all this stuff. It's really handy for plugging stuff and keeping things clean, and then just reuse them. So. All right, so I had to go back out to the store and get some 5/16. Actually, that's what it's, 5/16. This was 5/16, and I started to get the bends in it, but right about here, I realized there was some rash, and it was actually quite thin in that spot. So off that went, and we just went and got a brand new piece. It's 72 inches long. We need to cut about 9 inches out of it, but we won't do that yet. I'll just go ahead and follow through, get the shape on this one. And I think the best strategy for something like this is get the hard bends first. Try to get the approximate area, do your big bends, and then all the little ones that kind of wrap around and around the transmission will do that. So trying to get it done. It's just Okay, so that's a good one there. Here is the duplication. Here's the new piece. See, it's longer, so we're gonna have to trim this down, flare the ends, and I gotta cut these ends off so I can take the nuts off. And you gotta be, you know, smart, because we want to cut the flare off here. Cut the flare off there. And I'll tell you in a minute what I probably should have done. But cut the flares off, slip these on, reflare each ends. Probably what I should have done is cut one end off before I started bending them, and slipped that one down there to the end after taking these little fittings off. But, you know, we'll just make twice as much work for the flares. So, actually, I think it's easier to bend from this end than bend from this end, because the other piece I was having a lot of trouble getting this little area here mapped out. But I did that first, and this, before I knew it, I was at the end, so worked out pretty good. And so I'm going to trim these up, get the flares on them, try to do the things right, concentrate a little bit, and hopefully we'll be ready to put it back in the van. All right, so here's our flaring tool, all the stuff there. Did that 5/16 adapter. Here it is, got the lines on there, or the fittings on the lines, and then the flare there. So these are ready to go back in. Normally I would clean all this stuff up and paint it, but I think right now we'll just worry about make sure everything's clean as far as internally, which I cleaned both of them out really good with brake cleaner. And I'm gonna slip them back through here, try to get them hooked back up, and we can clean the side of the transmission later. You know, that's just me getting sidetracked, is worrying about something when it can be done later, no problem, just a matter of detailing. But get those in, get the radiator set up, hopefully get it in, get it hooked up, get the fittings on it, have to go get some coolant, and then I'm gonna do a check. I already went ahead and put fuel in the gas tank. I put about 4 gallons, maybe 3.5 in there. So it's got some fuel in it. First time in years I have liquid fuel as opposed to rotted, rusty, varnishy fuel. So I'm sure it's feeling good about that. Get all this drained out. We're gonna feed these lines back through down the side of the engine transmission there, that little hole down through there. And since we do have some gunk and all that stuff on the side of the transmission, and we go twirling it around, you know, wrestling it back in there. Let's put some caps on the ends of our lines so that we don't get a bunch of gunk in them. Okay, these yellow bits might actually work. They're like little plastic caps. They're not rubbery or vinyl. Whereas this one's kind of kindly loose. Okay. I'll try that. So I pulled them out together because they got these little S-clips that hold it here and here. So I think I get one at a time down there, then we'll rotate them or whatever we need to do to get them in the right orientation with each other. I think I'll bring it around this side here. This one is for the it'll be the passenger side of the radiator. And that little bit. Kind of got to go around, then over the exhaust pipe. See if I can fish it around there. Okay, so I think that's the one that goes to the front transmission line. Maybe not. Let's see. I think I might have to go back. Obviously, one of them's shorter than the other one. Okay, that's where that needs to be. Now this one might be a little harder because it's got the hard hook on it, so it might be harder to kind of have to play the old twister game. I definitely think it's better probably to put them in this way than to put them in as a pair, because then you're really dealing with 5 different angles. You might have to work it around the other one that's already in there. So, see what's holding it. That roughs it into place. Let's see. Not exactly where we want it. Same way, yeah, there we go. And that one. So you know you have the one that comes out here, one comes out here. And then right here we got that clip. We need to since it's not an exact replica of what was in there, you might have to kind of play the game with it. So I can probably snap that one in there, right here. So that one's good. Now over there, see, it's a little wider, and not that I don't expect that. All right, so hopefully you can see I actually stuck the base of the GoPro into the one of the holes in the cross member. So let's see here. Okay, our cap came off there, but that's fine. I don't think there's any goo in it. Okay, we're good there. So you do need a little pushing around. I think I'll try to go this one first. And as you can tell, it is pretty dirty up here, but I think we can go back around later. Just clean all that up. Kind of bothers me, but that's the way it is. Get this fitting back on here. At least get it a couple threads on, that way we can get it anchored like that. Now this other one, we probably need to go that side of the shift linkage, pull our cap off. Of course, now my gloves are greasy. Let's see. Daggone. Penetrating oil and probably transmission fluid. Let's see. There you go. There you go. Drop it off that way. Make sure we're clean there. Don't get any stuff in it. Now our line that we made, this is the new one. A little in the way of the shift linkage. Now I'm gonna try to get a couple threads on it, and we might have to do a little extra massaging of the line. First challenge is just getting a couple threads on it, and I might have to take the rod here loose in order to do that. Take a break for a second. My neck, this angle. Okay, I think we got a little bite there. See if it'll smoothly turn. Pretty good. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna have to do a little bendy bend over there. Let me check it out at the front where we started out with the installation. I'm gonna disconnect the little S that we did connect, and get a little more room out of it that way. Strong arm it a little bit. And move it down. you should be able to shift and it not ever touch any of that. So when you click the S springs back together, it should kind of suspend it from all this other stuff that's in the way. I'm gonna run a few more threads on here. And actually, you know what I need to do first is check our fitting here. So I can pop it back loose since it's all not fighting me. Now I had to use an adjustable wrench on this because the fitting was a little rounded. Yep. You want to He-Man the thing on, you just want to see it's got that round spot on it. Definitely want to get it snug though. These things are kind of bad about not getting a good fit, even though you try to adjust them. This one seemed like it was pretty loose for it to go in back in this much. And it's touching that shift rod again, so we're gonna have to reposition that a little bit. So check it later. I think if we can get it running and we get a heat cycle, we could come down here and re-snug all these. Make sure we're tight. Bend that a little bit. I'll work it, get it a little bit more away from that exhaust pipe. Let's see what we can do up front with the radiator and all that stuff. This is not a new radiator, it is the old one. There didn't seem to be any rot or leakage with it, anything like that. So I just stuck some shop towels up in the ports and then capped off the transmission cooler fittings, and it's pretty much set for the past year like that. Let's clean it out, and I think I can slip it down in there. I'm not sure. We'll find it. I think the fan's got to come off. It's been a while. Okay, so radiator's in, the hoses are on, the lines are tightened up for the transmission. We got the fan back on. Those 4 bolts are tight. I went ahead and put the fan belt, the new one, on, and tightened up the alternator. Checked all the heater hoses for tightness. We put coolant back in the radiator, so probably as it cycles through, because a lot of it came out of the engine when I did the timing chain and all that stuff, the timing chain cover. So it might cycle through lower, and then I can add some more, and you know how to get the burps in it. We're tight on the fittings on the transmission. Unless I'm missing something, I'm going to check the all the clamps for the fuel system, because that was brand new, all that. So I'm going to check those real quick, make sure they're all tight, and then I'm going to probably push it out here to get a little bit of air, a little bit of light, and try to start it back up and get it running on its own for the first time since I've had it, and probably the first time in nearly 20 years that it's ran on its own fuel tank and anything like that. So. Okay, so I got it out a few feet here. I don't want to get the body work under the rain or anything like that. I put a spare tire under the back wheel since we don't have any brakes. It is going to be in park, and we just don't want anything to get away from us, can't stop it. Emergency brake is also a bit loose, so that's good precautionary. Make sure we have it in park in case the neutral safety, anything's messed up there. Got a fire extinguisher on this side, got one on that side. It's not a brand new motor or nothing like that, but we have had a lot of it in park, and we put it back together, so it's just a precaution. You should do it too if you're doing anything remotely like this. No gas in front of the tank forward, so it'll probably take a few seconds to get some fuel up there, and hopefully it'll kick. We got enough grounds and everything, so I'm just kind of banking on that, so wish me luck. I'm gonna check the fuel filter. We've got fuel. Hopefully the carburetor situation's good. So we'll see. Okay, so I think there's probably a situation. I'll bring you along, see what we can find. Alright, so we got fuel in here. I guess I need to look. It doesn't look like we're getting anything here. Smells like it. We've got fuel in there. See if we get any. Alright, we're getting spark from the coil. We're getting to the spark plugs. It looks like it's kind of a carburetor issue. I think the dash pot is doing something there. I got a very slight kick out of it when I pulled back on the dash pot, the vacuum, the little diaphragm. Let's try it again, see what we got. It's out of tune really bad, but it's got the bones for it.
I can hear it rumbling in there.
Well, it's not quite running. It's like, if you listen here. Needs a tune, and there you sit. There you have it. Yay. The wife's wondering what's going on out here.
Ooh. That's not 10 o'clock yet. Ooh, it's cold and wet. Well, good. I'm glad it started for you.
Yep. But it just needs a good tune up. Probably, I think there's some carburetor work. Because the only time I could get it going is when I pulled back on the choke on it, and then that's when you start hearing it. I think we need to do the adjustment there that it calls for. It probably make a big difference. And a little bit it was in the distributor. I was rocking the timing back and forth, and I think it may have been a little too advanced, but it's kind of hard to figure when you're doing all that. And I don't do it enough, so see all the smoke. Yeah, we definitely got some stuff to do. Actually, we could probably try it once here. So we got it on. when I had to open this up here, just an adjustment, I believe. And try So there you have it. Smells pretty, smells kind of lean, so I might have to fool with that a little bit. All right, we're gonna give it another try. I did some adjustments on the choke, some on the accelerator pump. Plugged one of the vacuum lines that come out, that was the one that went in here. I just went ahead and plugged that. And then the line that went to the dash pot, it was actually had a rotted piece in it, so I actually found one of my new pieces, put it in there. So try again. Still got a little issue. Most of that you're hearing is the body, the doors and all that. But we do have a temperature gauge. Fuel gauge doesn't seem to be working. And of course some of those, I'll have to take a look at that. But it's going. It needs a little bit more of a tune-up because it kind of wants to cut out when you give it some gas. But I did get it to idle. That's what it's doing now. I'm going to take a check on the, make sure the hoses are even, they're warm, they're not got air bubbles in them, anything like that. And I'll probably call it a night. So, hey, thanks for following along with us here in the Hoosier garage, checking it out. First time it's ran on its own in almost 20 years. So it's really going places now. So make sure you check out the merchandise in the link below. Buy something you like. It's all original artwork. And check back next time. Make sure you subscribe, you like, hit the bell, get notifications when we post again. You'll see what's coming up next on the old van and then the Duster down the road. So thanks a lot. Take care.